If this was in fact the final chapter of Khabib Nurmagomedov's career inside the octagon, then in every sense for his role, Justin Gaethje was perfectly cast by the disastrous sequence of events that led to UFC 254. Khabib Nurmagomedov putting his belt on the line against an extremely compelling threat. Gaethje was a formidable fighter coming into rare form. For several years, but especially in the lead up to the fight, over and over, Gaethje was able to outline a game plan to beat Khabib that seemed both credible and well within the limits of his own skill set. He was completely realistic about his own faults and limitations, but equally clear on his route to victory. Stay off the fence, stay off the mat, take out the legs, and inflict massive damage on the feet. It really wasn't hard to envision him doing those things long enough to incapacitate Nurmagomedov. He painted that picture a million times, and by the time the fight rolled round, it was especially vivid.
I will not allow him to put me on the fence. And if I do, then I'm screwed. So my game plan is to, if he wants to grapple, let's grapple in the middle. At all times, I will be, I've said it 1,000 times, I cause damage. I have dense bones. I'm going to kick his legs. That's where it's going to start, and then we're going to move on from there.
One of the things Khabib had mentioned was that Gaethje has an excellent coach. And of course, we know this coach had already helped mastermind the destruction of an undefeated and super dominant champion in another division. Just like Gaethje, when we first saw Rose, she was wild, unpredictable, and just loved to scrap. But just like Gaethje, after a couple losses by the time she faced the champ, she was much more measured and cerebral. As far as tacticians go, Trevor Whitman's record speaks for itself. There was almost an element of deja vu here, and Khabib acknowledged the threat.
He changed his style, I think because of his coach, because he's a very smart coach. He completely changed. Smart people give him good advice. I think that's why he changed his style.
He have great coach, how he cornered him. He give him very good advice. I think he have very good and very great coach.
My purpose as a coach and as a person is to externalize the internal champion, and I feel that's what I do very well, so I'm very excited for that.
But while acknowledging Justin's strengths, Khabib had some interesting observations of his own. He noted that while Justin was on an outstanding streak of controlled carnage, these guys had played right into his hands. They were essentially kickboxing fights. But against him, Justin wouldn't be getting so comfortable. Khabib represented a far more complex and multi-dimensional headache for Gaethje.
It was like only striking match, kickboxing match. But with me, it's going to be completely different. You have to worry about takedown. You have to worry about boxing. You have to worry about kicking. You have to worry about grappling. You have to worry about MMA. This is not striking game,
But I prepare myself to try to take him down 100 times.
I'm going to make him tired. This is my goal. Maybe around number 3 or around number 4, my plan is finishing.
Relentless takedowns were a critical part of the overall game plan, which was, as it has always been, to drain the life out of his opponent, break him, and make him quit. We've seen it over and over. They were both totally open about their intentions, and both game plans were just so easy to envision. With all their cards on the table, it really seemed a matter of who can impose their will. But Gaethje's attitude and momentum, in combination with his recent evolution, it just seemed to create a sense of everything coming together. Whereas for Khabib, there was a number of unknowns at play. While Gaethje's coach was working on a strategy to beat Khabib, we know Khabib was, for the first time, working without one of his most important advisors. In a Russian interview, Khabib admitted that he was training as a distraction, to relieve his depression. I mean, this fight was booked right after his father's passing, so there was just no question he was coming into the cage with a lot of unresolved emotions and a lot of very raw pain. At least to me, this fight seemed to be happening at the perfect time for Justin, while there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding Khabib, an uncertainty that he himself was feeling.
It was everywhere. Challenge, this year it was very hard for me, very, very hard, hardest year in my life. Who knows how I'm gonna feel inside the cage. Physically I feel great, mentally I feel great too, but first time I'm gonna have this hard situation when I go to the cage.
At the last minute, there were indications of a horrible weight cut. There was a moment on the scales where he thought he missed the 155-pound limit, and man, he looked devastated.
155.
Khabib Nurmagomedov may have never lost a fight, but for his part, Justin had never once failed to drag his opponent through hell. So I think most expected this to be a brutal contest, the Dagestani's toughest test, and that we might see Khabib pushed to his limit and very possibly dethroned.
And I know I'm going to see his blood. So I want him to see his blood, and I want to see his reaction.
He don't know, but I see a lot of blood in this life because I'm living in Dagestan. You know, I see a lot of blood, and I don't think blood gonna stop me, you know.
And that was the most surprising part of the whole thing. Khabib was not pushed to his limit. There was no war. Instead, he showed once again that he is head and shoulders above the division. Khabib fought like there was a limo full of beautiful women waiting outside the arena. He walked Justin down. Even when Gaethje landed vicious leg kicks or threw massive haymakers, Khabib just kept coming forward. His blatant disregard for Gaethje's power was shocking. The guy was throwing flying knees. At the end of the first, he secured his first takedown and was immediately looking for submissions. He was just so aggressive. Although Gaethje's kicks did nothing to slow Khabib down, they definitely looked like they were taking a toll. But what was Gaethje's most effective weapon was also his undoing. A minute into the second, Khabib catches a leg kick, takes him down, and after some beautiful transitions, he takes the mount. Moments later, Gaethje's asleep. It was the performance of Khabib's life. Sensational. In the aftermath, St. Pierre said, "I knew he was good, but he just brought it to another level." And I think everyone felt the same way. Even in a career full of outstanding performances, this was shocking.
It was a masterful performance. As close as you get of a perfect fight against a very, very tough threat in Justin Gaethje. It seems so easy for him. You know, it was just amazing.
What happened next was one of the more poignant moments of his career. In the lead up to this, and ever since his father died, Khabib had been asked many times to comment on a loss. Now, a stranger with a microphone asking that type of question, it really just seemed so tactless and out of touch. And Khabib eventually became very annoyed by these questions. But I can understand the question. As I've said before, this sport is a tremendous platform for humanity and humanity's themes. Mourning, grief, and loss, they're some of the more intense parts of our lives. Everyone could surmise the type of pain Khabib must have been in. We saw this story from the start. This was not a normal father-son relationship. And so, not that he owed us anything, but there was an element of wanting to hear Khabib verbalize his pain, to express some sense of loss. I can understand that curiosity. I was curious, but it was brought up too many times until it eventually seemed just so ham-handed and clumsy.
How difficult is it for you to prepare to the fight without him and know that he's not going to be in your corner?
I don't understand when people ask me how difficult train without father. Of course this is difficult. I don't understand why you guys keep asking me this. This is very difficult. What do you think? You have your father?
Yes, I do.
Yes, if something happened with him, what do you think? It's gonna be difficult for you or easy?
Yeah, obviously it's very difficult.
Yes, I'm human too, you know, of course this is very difficult.
His frustration was obvious. There was nothing he wanted to say on the matter. But actions speak louder than words. Khabib's retirement was many things, but it was, more than anything, a perfect eulogy for his father. He has the performance of a lifetime. He's now undeniably atop the pound-for-pound rankings. He's finally made it to the mountaintop. And even though he looked the best he's ever been, he hangs up the gloves with the simple explanation, "No way I'm gonna do this without my father." Khabib might not have been comfortable answering those questions, but for a guy who has always been so stoic and in control, to see him overcome with emotion, to see him break down in a cage, it really said so much. It spoke volumes.
And with my father more than 20 years, it was my last fight. And no way I'm gonna come here without my father. It was first time.
And as I said, Justin Gaethje was the ideal opponent. I've already done a video on how Justin regards his parents as his heroes in life. Gaethje always expresses gratitude for them. In fact, he even said if he died in the cage at UFC 254, at least his parents would get millions of dollars. Coming into this fight, one of the major upsides for him was that he would be able to retire his mother a couple of years early. These gestures from Justin made this whole incredible post-fight exchange possible. Khabib told him, "I know you're a great man. I know you take care of your people." And then he basically implored Justin to cherish his parents because you never know what's going to happen. That message came from the perfect man, and it was directed at the perfect man. Because in Gaethje's post-fight, he offered a reply of sorts, saying of Khabib, "I know he made his father so proud." It was all just very sad, and at the same time, very moving.
I know you're great, man. I know how you take care of your close people. I know a lot of things about you. Be close with your parents, because one day it's gonna happen something, because you never know what's gonna happen tomorrow. You never know.
The only reason I stuck here is to give this man praises. And I know he made his father so proud.
The retirement was amazing. It doesn't get any better. He leaves the sport undefeated, fulfilling his father's wish. He's atop the pound-for-pound rankings. There's widespread talk of greatest of all time. But more than anything, the performance, the outpouring of emotion, the subsequent retirement speech, and that heartbreaking exchange with Gaethje was just the type of perfect tribute and eulogy to Abdulmanap that Khabib could never in a million interviews have articulated. Khabib came into the sport and immediately obvious with themes of mentorship and respect for your elders. And even though it's just so sad that the final chapter embodied the theme of grief and mourning for that mentor, at least it was a worthy homage to their whole journey together. As Justin Gaethje said, his father would have been very proud.